Hello, this is episode 18 of the Sunny View podcast. I am Manuel Villavieja, and today we're discussing near future technologies with my good friend.
Hi, I'm Richard. This is my first time on here. I'm very excited. Thanks for inviting me, I guess.
Yeah, we're really going to the geeks part of the stuff here. So let's start with a bang. Richard, do you think AI is overhyped or underhyped right now? So do you think it's overestimated or underestimated?
I think it's getting the attention it deserves, to be fair. It has a bright future, it's going to be used a lot. And I think that the attention it's getting is, it's like fine,
Fine, but don't you think it's a little too much? Because I think it's a little bit like nuclear technology in like the 1950s, where people were like straight up putting it in kids' toys and everywhere, and people thought we were going to have nuclear-powered cars. In theory, you could have nuclear-powered cars today, but due to the possibility of a crash and nuclear material getting everywhere, we don't really do it. Don't you think like some of the more outlandish ideas are going to go?
Yeah, but it also has a risk of taking many jobs. A lot of stuff can change, with the fact that it can just change the entire industry overall. Like everything is going to change after the fact that we're going to have these stuff working for us that's going to be maybe even more smarter than us. Mm-hmm. I think it's like you're dealing with stuff here that could be big, and I think it's
But do you think like there's a limit? You know what I mean? Like people are overhyping it. Like I don't know, podcasts are going to go, and we're going to go with them.
Well, I don't think podcasts are going to go necessarily. You have humans interacting there, and I don't think AI is going to
be... Well, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. Like, AI is going to get so good at making images that photographers are going to go, and engineers are going to go as well, because AI can design it better for them, and writers are going to go...
But you can always tell the difference between an AI picture and a human touch. Humans have some sort of artistic skill that AI is not possessing yet. Like... Usually, even nowadays, you can tell what is AI, what is not. Sometimes it's hard. There's a slight things going on, but like in the future, that stuff's gonna develop, and the machine learning itself is gonna learn how to be even better and better. So,
do you think there's gonna be a point where it's gonna be indistinguishable?
Of course, yeah. Really? And that's the scary part. And that's why I think the attention, like it's getting.
So you think it's getting the attention it's needed?
Of course. But I think you cannot stop it though. Like it's
you cannot stop it.
Yeah, it's gonna happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The AI is gonna get there anyway, and that's what I think. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question. Would you eat lab-grown meat or genetically modified organisms? With genetically modified organisms, we mean grains that have been genetically modified to get to have more calories in them, or rice that has more essential amino acids or vitamins?
That is a wild question. I would definitely eat genetically modified stuff, So if you could put all the good nutrients that you require for your day-to-day life, I see no reason why not to eat that.
Yeah, I think the same, but would you also do that with an animal? Like, let's say they straight up they get all the genetic flow and just splice it up and make a brand new animal. Would you eat that animal?
There's a question of morality just by making that animal in the first place.
Pretty much.
I don't think it's just creating an animal out of thin air is ethical in the first place. If you make it in the first place, then I see no reason why you should also not eat it. But
you think we're playing a little too much God with genetic modification?
Well, we haven't reached that point yet, I think, or as widely spread it could be. It's not there yet, so I don't think that question is standing here right now. But I think.
All right, let's go to the next one. Do you think
would you eat?
Would I eat? I don't think lab-grown meat, because I don't really think it's going to get less expensive than normal meat, because you have to actually grow it in vats, and you actually have to make the structure around the cells when you grow it. And all of these steps for just getting a cow and killing it, and from the cow you can also get the leather and the bones and the intestines and stuff that can be used for other stuff, not just the meat.
I mean, even if you have to grow meat in a lab, wouldn't you be able to, like, massively spread it, speed it up, make it more efficient? I think that would save a lot of money.
I mean,
just on time and resources.
Yeah, but where do you get the meat?
And I don't think you would grow an entire cow just to produce a piece of steak,
Yeah, but like, where do you get the meat? The meat needs nutrients. How do you get the nutrients? You need blood. How are you going to pump the blood? You're either going to get a pump or just a heart. It just gets to a point where, like, just get the living animal and you get the side products of, like, leather and, like, bones and stuff,
I mean, yeah, but, like, if you were to manufacture actual stuff like that in labs, you wouldn't create an entire organism, You would have a labs assigned to each product like that. You wouldn't make an entire structure like that.
I mean, it just seems a little too much just for, like, making a damn farm. It sounds easy just to make a farm, right?
It's a lot of work.
Don't you think? All right, Richard, next question. What do you think is the future of energy? So, like, do you think it's nuclear? Do you think it's sustainable energies? You think it's coal, maybe?
I'm very pro-nuclear fusion. I think nuclear fusion is the...
Fission as well?
No, fusion.
Fusion fission.
I'm a big fan of fusion. The stuff that CERN is doing in France, they made a nuclear fusion reactor with 22 minutes in a straight go, beating China. That was, like, in the news, like, recently. It has crazy amount of energy potential there, you can, like, scale it down too, so you can put it in your cars, eventually.
Are you sure? Like, I mean, we're talking about millions of degrees hot inside of a car. Like, the smaller it gets, the harder it would be, because
that is true.
The square cube law. Like,
I'm talking like 80 years time though.
80 years time.
I mean, I would be scared more putting a nuclear fission reactor in my car than dealing with uranium.
I mean, yeah, dealing with that is correct. But I think
oil is definitely not the reason. That stuff is gonna run out in a few hundred years, and it's not really the energy outputs, like, source. I think solar panels as of right now don't give the energy they could to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the green energy sources that are being produced, like wind energy and all of that, I think it's being a little overhyped. Don't you think?
The renewables.
Yeah, they're not as efficient as people promote. It's getting there. Every year there's new, like, speaking of solar panels, every year they're developing them more and more. New technologies come out, making them better. But still, clouds are going to be in the sky. They're not going to come away. Yeah,
like, that's, to be honest, no one has estimated how good solar panels have gone in the last 20 years. But they still have the fundamental problems of solar panels, which are when there's clouds, you don't get any energy. So you either have to find a way to store energy when it's sunny, or you're going to have to find a secondary source of energy, which I think is definitely a nuclear either fission or fusion. Because if not, what else do you have? Hydroelectric dams or...
Which one do you prefer, fusion or fission?
I think fusion is definitely the way forward, but it's so hard to get right now that we should definitely use fission for the time being, because fission, like, we still haven't figured out. Well, we have figured out slightly how to do thorium reactors instead of uranium reactors, where they're A, way safer, B, cheaper to produce, and give out way more energy. So I definitely think that for now we should invest more in traditional nuclear reactors than fusion nuclear reactors. But once we get the technology, we should definitely do the transition.
How do you feel about the fact that like in the last 20 years they shut down so many nuclear fission reactors? Like,
it is genuinely terrible. I think nuclear energy has one of the worst PR campaigns ever, because the people only really see the big accidents, Chernobyl and Fukushima. But even if you account every single possible death that happened due to nuclear energy, it's still the lowest one with a fatality rate, even lower than solar panels and wind.
That is true.
So I think it's primarily PR because, and it's also harder to see for the public. Like for the public, it's you got for the public the types of sources of energy is you got a chunk of coal that you burn it and you make energy, correct? And for wind, the wind goes really fast, which spins a turbine that creates energy. The sun gives us a light, which we can turn into energy. But then they go into nuclear, and for the majority of the public, it's just a hunk of rock that makes energy and sometimes explodes. And like the public, I don't think really knows how.
So there's a lack of awareness.
Yeah, lack of awareness from the public in that part, because nuclear reactors nowadays is literally just boiling water. It is just a coal power plant, just that instead of burning coal to heat up water, you use a nuclear reaction to heat up water.
That's fair.
But I think the main problem we will have in the future will be remote areas empowering them. Because, like, for example, are you really going to build an entire power plant to power Antarctica? You cannot run a power line to Antarctica from like Argentina or something. Mm-hmm. You need to put it natively. But we either have just diesel generators.
Yeah.
Solar panels are not going to work because it's Antarctica.
There's barely sun there.
Pretty much. So I think microscale nuclear reactors or some other source like Stirling generators are way better. Like same thing on the moon. Like on the moon, which we'll get to lunar colonization later. But on the moon, you can use solar panels for like the lunar day. But after the lunar day, it's 14 days straight of just pure night, which you don't have any power. So you need some power there. So I definitely think nuclear technology is the way forward in that place, but we shouldn't take out renewables, especially solar power. Next question. Should technologies be pioneered by governments or private companies?
Can you give me an example of a government
Let's say getting stuff to orbit. So you got either SpaceX or NASA.
Okay.
So,
I mean, NASA has the funding of an entire government. That's a way different, like, price range than that of SpaceX.
Yeah, but like, where does the government get that money from? The people, from taxes.
Yeah, of course.
And
but it's a way different funding, so it has way different potential of like what they can do and what they cannot do. But but due to the fact that it's funding, it takes a lot of like administration, a lot of paperwork. So if in case something goes bad, there can be a lot of backlash all the way from all the people living in the country putting their money in. But yeah, regarding private companies, there's a lot of stuff you don't have to do, a lot of stuff you can skip that could just easier up the process of development.
Yeah, but like, for example, if we go to like planes, we've had the same tube and wing design for airlines for the past 70 years or something. And like, it's not the most efficient. Like flying wings or like other models of aircraft are in theory at least way better. But like the problem is that investigating into them costs so much money, and the possibilities of actually getting something are so uncertain that private companies would rather spend billions eking out like small percentages of fuel efficiency or speed in a proven concept than actual. So I definitely think that in like highly experimental stuff, we cannot rely on like the private market because there's no seeable profit there. I think.
So you think government funding is better than private companies?
In some cases. In other cases, not.
Yeah, of course.
Because the problem with governments is that lots of times they're funded by ideology. Like take this space race. We got to the moon, but once the ideological struggle of communism versus capitalism went out because according to all, the US won the space race. After that, it like really died down, Yeah. And it's only been with like SpaceX that has managed to lower the cost to orbit way down, that we're starting to see more and more companies, more and more people able to put space probes on on Earth.
Countries are doing stuff too, like China.
Yeah, definitely. Like
China have been doing stuff. India has been doing stuff.
Definitely, like Mark Rober put a satellite on.
Yeah, he did that
on space, like to the point that even just a private citizen, a YouTuber, can put a satellite on there. Is definitely a giant achievement. You know.
Do you think that's a good idea though? Like having so many satellites orbiting our planet right now?
Oh, you're talking about space junk.
Yeah.
I think
way too many stuff floating around.
I think it should be legally required to like deorbit it in a safe way and to like to try to reduce the amount of space junk. Because I think the majority of space junk right now, I think, came from a test the Chinese did to do anti-satellite missions. So like what they did was take a rocket, fly to space and blow up a satellite. And like all the fragments of the satellite are just right now orbiting the Earth like several times like hundreds of times the speed of sound. And when they impact another satellite, that satellite also gets destroyed, which
Chain
makes
reaction.
way more junk. So that's definitely a problem. So we need to find. So I think the main thing is making it legally required for all satellites that they deorbit themselves once they're finished, because if not, we're just going to have a bunch of space junk around Earth, which is going to lower our chances of getting out of Earth. But coming back to the question, I think private companies are the way forward, but there has to be a way. But since they need a way to make money, we also need governments to do the research that is not profitable, because governments are doing the whole fusion stuff in France and in the US, and private companies aren't, because that's a lot of money into something that's not proven. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, it takes an entire Europe to just build a SLS rocket just for the moon. I don't think a private company could do that.
Yeah, definitely. Like coming to the moon. Once one private company has done a mission to the moon and then came back, or has done an asteroid thing and came back, it's gonna be like the AI. No one thought AI was possible until ChatGPT came up, and then everyone started doing AI. So I think it's gonna be the same thing with space and any future technologies. Like for example, back to genetic modification. Once someone has made a new type of rice or something that is so good that it just becomes new craze, everyone is going to start doing it. Because once private companies see that there's a business model that can be profitable and that has been proven, then they will start investing. So like once, I don't know, someone makes a base on the moon and starts attracting tourists, space tourists that pay millions to walk on the moon, and they generate a profit, then all of a sudden the gates are open, because we're inviting the free market there, and from there thousands of dollars and euros are going to come down to investment.
You're talking of very far in the future stuff there, though.
Come on.
It's going to take time. First, you have to put Antarctica bases like that, to see if it's actually habitable on the moon. You cannot just put tourists straight away, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's going to happen in a few years' time.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. I actually asked this question to you before the podcast, but you didn't really understand it. But what discipline will advance human development most? With discipline, I mean like physics or chemistry. So like what field of science will advance human development the most?
I guess I just gotta repeat my answer like before. I think it's a puzzle that connects like everything together. With one development, one new thing, you can take stuff out of that. You can implement that in other areas of the industry. And I think it's just one single leading, area of science. Like even if you had quantum computers,
Yeah, but like I mean the main scientific branch that will.
I don't think there's one singular science branch that's doing the stuff. I think it's all like connected.
Yeah, but there's usually
one breakthrough is just gonna lead to another breakthrough in a different thing, thanks to due to the stuff that's gonna.
Yeah, but there's a breakthrough. Like for example, now there's a big haze of AI.
Pretty
in
just
the
talking AI. There's other stuff too. There's the quantum stuff.
yeah, but
the quantum chips.
since 2020, AI has exploded, or 2022, whenever it came out, whenever ChatGPT came out. And like in the 1950s, after the atomic bombs and nuclear energy was all the craze. And back in like the 1800s, it was chemistry, because chemists could make fertilizer from thin air, literally thin air, from the nitrogen around us. And like they were the people that first distilled petroleum into gasoline and diesel. So, there's like different parts of science that advanced the most and were all the rage in like specific times.
Each one of those breakthroughs eventually can be implemented in the other sciences too. And they take a piece of that out of that, and then that can lead to another breakthrough.
Yeah, but like I think the question is, which one do you think is going to have most breakthroughs in the future?
I'm standing my ground here. I think it's equal.
Really? Because I think it's material science. Because we got already so many machines that do work, so many mechanisms that do work, like electrolysis, distillation, stuff like that. We just need to make them more efficient. So, like for example, I saw a research paper that replaced the graphite electrodes in electrolysis with an iron chromium alloy, and usually the electrodes get used up after several runs of electrolysis, but these ones are not used up. You know what's the good thing about that? Once we put them in the moon, we don't have to bring tons upon tons of graphite to electrolyze and refine our metals in the moon.
Development over there. Okay.
And this comes to the question I'm going to ask you now. Which one do you think is the best near future colonization candidate? Mars, the Moon, or Venus?
I mean, I don't think you should look at it like that. I think you should, see it as in like what's the most available right now. I mean, the closest the Moon, and then it's Mars. I don't think you can just go straight away to Mars without skipping Moon.
So you think it's the Moon?
I mean, it's the most logical here. you wanna get to the closest thing. You wanna get out of the atmosphere and have some sort of refuel station somewhere, of course, and some place to settle down first before going all the way to Mars. That's way too far away to look straight ahead.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go really in depth into the Moon. Let's say you were the director of NASA, or like the director of the ESA, or whatever, and you were tasked with making a sustainable long-term lunar colony. How would you go by that? Like, what would be your step-by-step of like the missions that would go?
I mean, I don't think I have the documentation.
Come on, bro, like
to say that, but
work with me. Do some speculation, like science fiction.
I mean, of course you have to. I mean, I think the NASA Artemis missions are already settled down out there. You have NASA Artemis 2 coming out next year, and then each mission after 1 year they're gonna make small steps, make progresses of putting stuff out there. I think that's gonna take 20 years at least before you have an actual small base to test out stuff. Then 10 years after that, after they find out that it's actually livable to be there, that's when the actual industrialization take place. I don't know. That's what I think.
Because I've read a book like literally called How to Colonize the Moon, and like it goes really into depth, like really nerdy stuff. I unironically was seeing charts of how to sinter lunar regolith. You don't even know what sintering is, right? It's like you're about to melt something, but you don't quite make it. And so like it somewhat changes its state,
structure, yeah.
Its properties by sintering it but you don't really melt it. So the way the book recommends it is starting like that with missions, but then once we get something like the Starship, you get 2 starships and you land them with just the essentials, the bare essentials. One with construction robots, a microscale nuclear reactor in both of them, basic living spaces for like 6 people, and like pretty much that's it, like a small workspace. and like you make it there. The engineers build it and they leave.
I mean, that's one concept. You have many different types of concepts you can implement there.
I mean, definitely, but like do you think, how would you build a base? Like, let's say once...
Build a house over there, I don't know.
With wood?
I mean, you can use the ground material over there, you know. You can use it as paste. You can 3D print houses over there. That's one way of doing it. You can go underground by digging.
I mean, I think the best thing would be to refine it first into metals, obviously. The regolith. Because the bad thing about regolith is that it has a lot of stuff we don't need. The good thing about regolith is that there's a lot of it. So we can just set up massive production chains that refines regolith into all we need. Because there's lots of iron there. There's also lots of aluminium, I think. And so you can have a sustainable and long-term source of iron and aluminum. And from the regolith left, you can sinter it. You can melt it. You can turn it into like slabs of molten regolith. And from there you can start building something. So I think we should start with a lunar base that's pre-made from Earth, like the Starship I told you. And from there, once you have that, you make a second proof. Once you have a proof of concept that, number one, you can have long-term living in the moon. Number two is you can make long-term living only from lunar, or mostly from lunar stuff. You know what I mean? Once we get... Because the problem with going from Earth to the moon is you're going to have... The more stuff you need to transfer from Earth to the moon, the more expensive it's going to get. So we have to try to make as much stuff natively in the moon as possible.
Oh, no, that's what you want to do with any colony.
Yeah, to the point that's self-sustaining. Would you try it? Would you become let's say like the day of tomorrow, they say we need an aerospace engineer to go up to the moon and do stuff there. Would you do that?
I would need the required training, but yeah, I guess why not?
Would you? Like if you were offered?
I mean, yeah, it's like the first colonizers of America, you know, of course you would go.
Let's do one final question. Let's do one final question. Let's say, because what do you think the future of Earth itself? Like, let's go really far into the future. Like, we've colonized not only the moon, but Mars and Venus and maybe even Titan. All right, Europa.
Yeah.
What do you think the place of Earth would be?
It's the Coruscant. It's the Coruscant planet. Yeah, it's the main hub station. I mean, that's I don't want to say. I don't know what's gonna happen in that time.
I think Earth will eventually become the agricultural world.
Do you think it's gonna be the one to grow stuff and plants?
At the start, yes.
But we're just building stuff at this point. You know, we're just building houses. We're taking down fields.
Yeah, but it will get to a point where like the only place where we can grow lots of tons upon tons of food is in Earth. Why? Because the dirt. It's literally just the dirt. Because the thing we say is literally dirt cheap has been forged by eons upon eons of rocks being degraded, of organic material being disintegrated and
the soil gets
destroyed.
worse.
Like the soil,
it gets worse over time too.
Yeah, but like the soil, it's being forged after 4 billion years of like a biosphere evolution. It's gonna be really hard to make soil in other planets. Like, sure, you could try starting by a few rocks and then crushing them, and then planting special plants that crush that turn that thing into the rock into actual soil. But it's gonna be really hard and really expensive.
I mean, I think if you're gonna talk this well in the future, I think you're just gonna grow plants in the lab at that point. I think you're gonna use fields for that.
I mean, do you really think growing plants in a lab is going to replace the trillions upon trillions of grains?
It's gonna save a lot of time.
Made by... made in the earth.
It's going to be artificial. You're not going to need seasons. You're not going to need, depend on weather. You're just going to make your own weather.
I mean, yeah, but it's definitely going to be way more efficient to do it in a lab or in a greenhouse, sorry. In a greenhouse, not a sun house, or somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, there's just so much farmland in Earth that I don't think it's going to be that big. I don't think there's going to be enough of
labs to sufficient all the people on Earth. Yeah, well, there's many possibilities. I don't know what's going to happen in that time.
Well, I think that's a wrap. I think that's everything. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.